your story. Tell us a little bit, number one, about where you grew up. What was life like growing up?
Um, my story, I was born and raised in the city called Krasnodar in southern Russia. Um, my parents were not believers. My father had a lot of cultural orthodoxy as well. I remember him giving the cross sign whenever we would pass a church in the car, but they weren't believers. They never went to church. They never professed Christ. They never read the Bible. Um, so I grew up the same way as a non-believer, as an atheist.
So, before you came to know Christ, what did you believe about Jesus? Fake, real?
Um, well, I think my family maybe a little inadvertently instilled a lot of Christian values uh, in the course of my upbringing. So I had a firm commitment to truth. I wanted to live according to the truth, and I wanted to find it, whatever it seemed to me at that time to look like. For me, it was atheism and naturalism, materialism, the way religion, the way faith is taught, the way God is taught in schools, and even for me as a homeschooled person, it's something of the past. Like people used to ride horses, and in the same way they used to believe in God, now we believe in something else called science and evolution and all of that. So my beliefs were centered around materialism and science as I understood it back then. But later I realized that I sort of appealed to science as magic as well. Kind of, I took it by blind faith, which is often criticized by that same camp when it comes to the believers.
What was the turning point? What was the crux, the day, the thought, the problem?
Um, so I left Russia in 2022, and that was kind of the first event that I guess really launched me deep um, into deep thinking, into reconsidering.
How old were you again?
I was 20.
20, 2022, 20. Okay.
I was 20 when I left Russia, and that caused me to really think about my worldview. Uh, First, what it did is it kind of pulled me out of this haze of partying and having fun at the university, at the dormitory. Um, the relationships that I had, they started to kind of fall apart because I left, and we didn't have those same contexts as we did before, like partying. And it pushed me to reconsider those relationships on what base they were formed. Um, and eventually the only relationship that I could call real or substantial was with a Christian girl I met at the university, and this really caused me again to think about that worldview and the basis for that worldview. Did the relationships, why did those relationships that claimed, eternal brotherhood and love for each other until death does us part, why did those relationships fail, and why did this one with someone who is Christian succeed? Um, at some point, I found myself enrolled in an educational program where we had to study religions, philosophy, history, and the purpose of it was to find your worldview, to construct your worldview. And I used that opportunity to really think and reflect a lot on the nature of reality. And another thing that I was really committed to is the notions of good and evil. I was really interested in why we call certain things good, why we call certain things evil. My parents, used to teach me that I should give up my seat on the bus for elderly people, and yeah, I didn't necessarily object to that. I just wondered why. And what is that standard that they're appealing to? And I tried to, during that time, during that educational program, I tried to find answers anywhere but except in God. I considered, again, evolution. I tried to explain morality with evolution. I quickly understood that it's not the way. I tried to explain morality kind of with a social agreement, and it also kind of failed in my mind. And there was one time when we read this book that talked about the origins of virtue. Where does virtue come from? And I was following the author as he was eliminating options. Like, virtue doesn't come from here, and I thought, yes, it doesn't seem to be. Virtue doesn't come from here, and I thought, yes, this makes sense. And I was eagerly waiting for the conclusion of the book, and you know what the conclusion was? That the virtue only comes from God. And at that point, I proudly closed the book, and I said, no, I don't agree with that author. So,
Gotcha.
There was a lot of things that brought me to Christ. The fact that I left home and it pulled me out of those destructive environments, the fact that I had to reconsider my relationships, the fact that I studied religions and worldviews deeply. But of course, coming to Christ was an emotional decision that I had to go for, and I didn't want to do it for a few months because I couldn't grasp the concept of having someone above me. It was very difficult to understand the idea of submission to another will. But I started reading the Bible eventually, and I understood that this is what I was searching for, the grounding for good, the grounding for those moral instincts that I have within me that do not depend on the evolution, that do not depend on social agreements, that do not depend on anything. I found it in the Bible. But eventually, as the popular cinematic trope goes, when you find out that the killer is the butler is the killer, it's kind of like a cliche in movies, I figured out, hey, it seems like I'm the killer. I was looking for the killers somewhere outside of myself. With the wars that I have seen started, I tried to find a way to judge those people who started those wars, who fought in those wars, but I never looked at myself and the evil within me. And living in Montenegro also helped in the way that I could see God's creation. I would every evening go outside and see the sea, see the mountains, the forests. And after a few months of reading the Bible, it helped me find the grounding for good. It helped me understand that I am part of evil, actually, and that I am in need, in fact, of salvation. And at that point, it didn't matter, submitting myself to someone. I didn't really care. All I wanted is to go back to the good, to not face the punishment that I do deserve. So
When was that time, that moment that you said, okay, I'm done. Here we go.
well, it was a gradual process, right? So the conviction of sin started to boil inside of me. And one evening, again, I was coming back from my evening walk in the summer of 2024. I think it was July, the end of July. And I don't know, the sunset was, I guess, somehow special that evening. The sea was a little too bright that evening. So in my soul, there was a lot of tension. I realized I cannot take it any longer. If it's submitting, then it is submitting. If it's because I need it, it's the only way, the only solution. So I came back home, locked myself in the bathroom, got on my knees and prayed to God, and asked Him to save me, to take my life. I was under the impression that, well, you do need to put yourself away, right? You need to take up your cross. And I thought, well, and you need to search for God's will. And I used to think, what kind of nonsense is that? I can barely find my own will. I can barely handle the will of the world. And now I have to consider someone else's will, and I have to be under that will somehow to walk in that light. Yeah, so I wouldn't call it a prayer of submission. It was a prayer of salvation, asking the Lord to save me. I just had a problem with submitting. And salvation involved kind of submitting to God in some sense.
But it led you to that place in your bathroom at home to say, Lord, save me.
Yes, because I realized, yes, I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the evil of the world. And as much as I like participating in evil, I do not want to do it anymore. And that I'm going to receive my punishment, but there is a way out. And if it involves submission, if it involves leaving out and quitting some of the sins, some of the destructive behaviors, then yes, I want to do that.
So since that time, this is just the last question, is how has your life changed, and what encouragement would you give to someone else that's seeking?
I don't know. It's a little difficult to put in numbers how my life has changed. I've definitely stopped doing things that I used to do that I wasn't particularly proud of. I definitely seek Lord's will. I am, sometimes it's difficult to keep growing in your Christian walk. Sometimes it requires that pain of quitting something that you thought was okay, but you realized it wasn't. I guess the main thing that my life has changed in is just the love that I feel inside. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and they would always annoy me, and we had kind of a difficult relationship, I think. But since I came to Christ, I find myself more filled with love for them, with more patience, with more care. So I guess that's the main change, I would say, the love that I have for people and for my relatives specifically.
You found a rest.
Yes, and again, it might be a little difficult to put into words because I wasn't like this huge rebel that would do drugs and do other bad things. I didn't do that. So maybe the contrast isn't particularly great, but inside I feel completely different. I do want to seek God's will. I do want to put him first instead of me, and I do want to serve people, help them come to know God as well.
What encouragement would you have for maybe a little Gleb out there in the world somewhere watching?
If you're seeking, I guess the encouragement is to not give up on the notion of truth. There is reality outside of your head. There is the truth outside of your head, outside of just your neurons firing. I don't know. My advice, I guess, would be to keep seeking that truth, to keep seeking why you believe the things you believe, why you behave the way you behave, why you value certain things and you don't value others, and find really answers. Do not stop until you find the answer, which is ultimately going to be faith in God and faith in Christ.
That's the end of the book. Thank you.
Amen.
Appreciate you. Your blessing. Let's get you to work.
I don't know.